All right, everyone, up, and away we go. Another edition of Matchday -1 coming to you from St. David's Performance Centre. Adrian, Healey and Michael Lahoud in the chairs. We are brought to you by PointsBet, founding partner of Austin FC, and brought to you this morning by Seattle's Best Coffee, where we are sleepless in Seattle, and our show has just been made a lot more pleasant to do, Michael, by what we saw on Wednesday night, which was terrific in every sense of the word, wasn't it? A true team performance, gritty team performance, a couple of great goals, some superb defending, great saves, rode our luck a little bit at the end. Everything that goes into a key road win, Austin produced at Lumen Field.
Well, I just want to say good afternoon to you, Mr. Healey, and good afternoon to you, Austin FC fans. Nothing like little Seattle's best.
Oh, thank you.
Just get a little sip in.
Thank you, Emerald City.
And Seattle's best coffee always tastes a little bit better with 3 points. And I think of all the things that you said, the most important ingredient to a road performance is getting results and getting points. Milestone, first win against Seattle Sounders.
Yes. I mean, Cascadia in general, let's not bury the lead. Cascadia in general has been a bit of a horror show for us in our first 2.5 years. We got that great result in Portland 2 weeks ago, 2-2. That was the sign of perhaps things changing, and now a first win up in the Great Pacific Northwest, and it was thoroughly deserved, Michael.
Absolutely. Watching this game reminded me of 2021. Remember, it was around the same time, May. I think it was Memorial Day weekend when the Verde and Black went up to Seattle, and Seattle looking like world beaters. They've been very good. There's a reason why they're at the top of the Western Conference standing, coming out of the gates behind the goals of Jordan Morris. But I didn't even recognize Jordan Morris in that match. He did have a big opportunity. Kudos to Brad Stuver. With so much being made about the attacking play, the goals being scored, Brad Stuver came up big when he needed to, and the team needed him at the very end.
I was thinking about this morning, trying to frame this in our 2.5 year history. How big is this win in terms of where it ranks in big wins? And I think it's right up there. I would put it perhaps just a little bit behind the LAFC road win last week. Which, by the way, here we are. We got last year's schedule up there, but it came at exactly the same time of year on a Wednesday night, midweek on the road, and a game we weren't supposed to win, and a game where we came in having lost a couple of games. Similar sort of result, 2-1. In fact, the game unfolded the same way. It went up 2-0, and in the end, clinging on a bit. But it's that sort of sized win. Not many teams go to either of those places and win, and we've now done it in both places.
And what I liked about it, there was a similar player that was on the field, Johan Valencia.
Yes.
Got his first start for Austin FC, does well. I loved that partnership with he and Danny Pereira. Danny Pereira, again, having license to get forward, license to roam. He is getting better and better with each second, with each game, with each minute that he is in Austin FC colors. But we're not here to just talk about some of the kind of satellite performers. There's two players that we have to give their flowers to, and one in particular.
Up there.
That man right there. Giassi Zardes, congratulations to you. You've worked so hard, and now that patience, that perseverance is paid off in a well-taken goal.
Does waiting that little bit longer to celebrate his first goal make it that much more special? It was a classic Zardes goal, wasn't it?
Well, I think the fact that it comes against a very familiar opponent for him. Think about his time when he was at the LA Galaxy, scoring goals against those pesky Seattle Sounders.
I saw him do it many times.
And you just can't be happy for him. When you are a player coming in with his pedigree, there's a lot of expectation. When you're coming into a team that lost in the Western Conference Finals, like Austin FC did, and there's a lot of expectation. And hey, you are an out-and-out goal scorer in Major League Soccer. It does take time. There's time that it takes to settle into a new system, a new environment, a new city, and now he's off.
Yeah. And that number should actually read 98, shouldn't it? Because that's what he's now up to. He's knocking on the 100 door. Maybe his next couple of home games will get him there. We shall get to those. Who else stood out? We saw the return of Diego Fagundes late on in this game, just cameo role off the bench, which was great. Lundqvist, I thought, impressed again.
Yep.
Big role in Austin's first goal. He's really come on strong, hasn't he, down the left-hand side the last 2 or 3 games. And Ethan Finlay, hats off to him. I mean, a goal and an assist. What a performance.
I look as well at the back three.
Yep.
Radovanovic, his presence, we look at his presence in there, Leo Väisänen and Alex Ring, they were solid. And you saw the shift when Rado went off. And there's minute management. I think he played 60 minutes around that. And his presence there, his ability to play out of the back, to read the game. You now have 3 solid center back options. Yeah. And think of what happens when Healey Cascante gets back to being healthy and powers are restored. We've talked about it in the last couple weeks. Do we now see Alex Ring venture forward? These are good question marks and good selection headaches for Josh Wolf to have.
Yeah, we keep on thinking this is going to be the game where they move Ring back, but they haven't done it, and he's continued to perform outstandingly, isn't he, at centre back? But at some point, there's going to be Cascante, Radovanovic, and Leo Väisänen available at some point. But I don't know. Don't know if Josh, Wolf is ever thinking that. Actually, we're just going to carry on with Ring because he's been doing just fine. And as you say, Johan Valencia has now demonstrated that he can play that role superbly.
What I saw a difference in with Johan Valencia, and we were talking about it before the show kicked off, was there's a sense of composure.
Yeah.
He's becoming more than just a defensive midfielder who's a ball winner. We know that he can do that. He showed that in the Colombian First Division. But what he also showed in Colombia when they won the championship, his ability to dictate play. Him and Danny Pereira being that anchor in midfield, it allows Danny to venture forward a bit more, play make a bit more, and just playing through Seattle's press, especially in the first 60 minutes, was a big factor in Austin building the confidence to then make the decisive plays in the box.
So the winless streak is over. What a way to end it. Again, make the comparison to the LAFC game. What a pivotal. I think for us last year, going there and winning was massive. Only 3 points on the night, but psychologically it showed we could mix it with the big boys. I think this could prove to be just as huge a win, a barrier kind of broken through psychologically, Michael. We shall see very soon.
Look at the points.
Yeah.
One win in Major League Soccer, when it's all congested, it can vault you up in the new stratosphere. One more win in the schedule coming up, especially this weekend's opponents, tomorrow's opponents, could then put you in a totally different conversation where I think you could be in the top 5.
Yeah. Well, let's get into that. Let's delve into the showdown. Back to Q2 we come. The games coming thick and fast in this merry-go-round of the month of May. So many games. What is it, 8 games in 25 days it's going to be? In fact, we now have 2 games at Q2 to talk about. We'll focus mainly on Saturday night. First-time opponents in Toronto FC. Your feeling coming into the game. And Toronto is such a hard team. I'm actually calling the game for Apple TV Saturday night, and I've got to admit my prep is a little lackluster at the moment because of what everything's been going on. I'm not that familiar with this season's version of Toronto. Saw a fair bit of them last year. It is pretty mind-bending where they are in the table when you look at the names of the players attached to that squad, Michael.
Names are something, but when you have injuries the ways that Toronto FC have had, I mean, they've been decimated with injuries. Yeah. It starts with their captain, Michael Bradley. He's had an hamstring injury, but then you go through the roster, and this is why not having depth, especially MLS quality depth, can really impact the start of your MLS campaign. For what they don't have in terms of veterans, in terms of some of the players that are out, they still do have a formidable front 3 who, when they get going and get hot, they are an absolute handful.
Yeah, Insigne, Bernadeschi, and of course they've just signed CJ Sapong, who knows where the back of the goal is, doesn't he, in MLS? So it's kind of an awkward game for Austin, isn't it? Coming so soon after terrific display, at Lumen Field, and expectations will be raised, and I won't call it pressure, but the expectation will be that the team now kicks on and takes care of business at home. How do they beat Toronto? I mean, Toronto are, joint bottom of the Eastern Conference at the moment, look to be a little vulnerable defensively, even though they have attacking fireworks available.
Are we tiptoeing the Lahoud mood, or just a general consensus? I'll stick with general consensus.
General thing consensus. On Toronto first, then we'll get
when you're playing against a team that has been struggling like Toronto FC has, the difference in beating them and struggling against them, it comes down to mentality.
Yeah.
Tactics go out the window, very much like almost a derby game or a rivalry game where you have to have that killer instinct against a team like that. The teams that have succeeded against them, once they've gotten a sniff, they get the second goal, they bury them. Because I've been there as a player. When your team is struggling, you give up that first goal, you're very vulnerable for that second. That second goal goes in, it's game over.
Yeah. They've got Sean Johnson as a goalkeeper to try and beat on Saturday night. Of course, someone that Brad Stuver knows very well. He was behind Sean Johnson in the New York City pecking order. So, Yeah, I'm just interested to see how we handle that expectation at home because we haven't won enough games at home. We now won more games on the road than we have at home. Got to start winning at Q2. This is a beatable team. So in many ways, I guess the pressure is on Saturday night, but the crowd will be fervent, won't they? They'll be buoyed by what they saw on Saturday night. And then it's a quick turnaround. Just briefly mention the Open Cup and Chicago coming in the round of 16 and another opportunity against an Eastern Conference team to get the right result at home.
Well, last year it wasn't Eastern Conference the gift that kept on giving for Austin FC.
You
Bring
are
them
right.
on. Keep it coming. I like the schedule makeup.
Yeah.
When I look at the road ahead for Austin FC, I love this competition. Had a lot of success with my former team. Still upset about those Open Cup final losses, though. Still bitter. But congrats to the teams that won.
Yeah.
But I like this. You have an opportunity to build on the result from Seattle.
Yeah.
And when you're a player, especially some of the attackers, you don't want the games to stop coming.
No.
Momentum is everything for goal scorers. And could we now see Gyasi Zardes or Maxi Urruti taking the gauntlet in the Open Cup and lead and taking it away?
My suspicion on that question of the number 9s is Josh is going to give Urruti the green light for the Open Cup. Scored in the last round, and we mentioned it in the last show. He is an Open Cup specialist. He's won this competition before with Dallas, scoring twice in the final. He loves the Open Cup.
I think he loves the kind of ferocity,
Yes.
the battle mentality, and that kind of survivalist sort of thing. I played against his FC Dallas teams, and they were a handful, and Maxi was the catalyst for a lot of that. Loves to mix it up. Just fantastic player in the final third. We saw that in the goal he scored against New Mexico United. We saw that throughout last season, and just that experience is everything in cup competitions.
Yeah. So 2 dates at Q2 to look forward to in the next few nights. Saturday night, Toronto. Wednesday night, Chicago. 2 Eastern Conference opponents. 2 first-time opponents. Still dealing with firsts for this club, which is great, isn't it? There's still going to be some teams at the end of the year we haven't played in our history. But leading into these 2 home games now, what is the sense of the Lahoud mood, especially after Wednesday night in Seattle?
And I slept on it, and the mood is inspired, Mr. Healey. And for Austin FC to have the inspiration to get these 3 points that are there for the taking against Toronto FC, they'll have to do these 2 Matchday -1 things. Number 1 is crosses.
Yes.
With a decimated backline, Toronto have struggled against crosses and struggled to keep out opponents' goal-scoring strikers. Gyasi Zardes, Maxi Urruti, Will Bruin, this is the game for you. But the Verde and Black, you have to get the ball to the end line and cross it in and give your strikers a chance. Number 2, it's very simple. It's focus. On the defensive end, Toronto do have some stars in Lorenzo Insigne and Federico Bernardeschi. Their individual talents, and I saw a goal that Insigne scored. Philadelphia Union lost focus on him, and all he needs is a half a chance, and he can put it in the top corner.
Yeah. I love the fact you brought up the crosses. That's one of the things that stood out to me about the Seattle game. Both goals. Both goals coming from players getting, if not right to the byline, then pretty close to it, getting much deeper than we've seen Austin traditionally concentrate on crossing from, which tends to be further out and diagonal. But great things happen when you get to the byline, don't they? It's tough to defend. It's harder to defend.
It's a nightmare. It's a game of inches when you're a defender. And, I mean, if a ball gets whipped in by the byline, you could very well knock it in your own goal.
Yeah.
You have to switch on that much more. And when you have midweek matches and games start piling up, defenders get tired. You're playing on a surface like you had in Seattle. Anything can happen, but you have to give your attackers a chance, and you give them that much more of a chance when you get to the byline.
Yes. The Lundqvist cross, superb, right along the ground. 2 very different crosses. And then Finley producing a more, kind of stereotypical winger's cross from the byline deep, but right on Gyasi Zardes' head. That's inspirational, Michael. Inspired is the Lahoud mood. I'm right with you. I'm inspired.
Well, I'm inspired by the taste of this coffee, too. It's got me buzzing.
Yeah, I want to see, I would love to have some Austin goals to call on Saturday night. So here's hoping against Toronto. Talking of inspired, Austin FC 2. Let's give a nod to the next pro team. Unfortunately, lost their first game of the season up in Colorado, but they're still 5-1-3 after 9 games. Still one of the top 3 teams in all of MLS Next Pro, West and East. They play Friday night at Palmer Field at St. David's Performance Center against San Jose Earthquakes 2. So I'm sure it's going to be it's going to be a lovely night weather-wise. Sure, it's going to be another great crowd at Palmer Field at St. David's Performance Center, which has been rocking for most of the home games for Austin FC2.
And for good reason. There's been goals, there's been standout performers, and it's been rampant within the players who, this is a character group. Yes, they have attacking pedigree. They've done a good job of keeping shutouts as well as home, but this is a total group, a complete group. I expect a response for them at Palmer Field.
So if you're in any doubt at all about what to do, you've got Friday, Saturday, and Wednesday covered. Austin FC 2 Friday nights right here, and then the first team at home on Saturday and Wednesday. We'll finish, Michael, with a moment of gratitude. Sam Lawson is the video analyst for this team, and he does a lot of work, and he's actually been having to do a lot of work alone recently as well, preparing, scouting, all video, everything the coaching staff asked for, not only on us, but their opponents. And last year we were the beneficiaries of some of his great work on iPads like this, scouting the opponents, in preparing to call games. It was invaluable for us, wasn't it?
As we said on air, and Sam, kudos to you as always. Thank you for all the hard work that you do behind the scenes. It is part of the modern game. The modern game is about data and analytics, but it is also about scouting. Yeah. And those details can be the difference in big games, in close games, in playoff games, and in the league games between getting a result and not getting a result. So I'm grateful for people like Sam who go the step further. His commitment to coming in, he's usually one of the first people into St. David's Performance Center to think about the next game. You need that if you're going to be a championship winning team. Great stuff, Sam. Keep up the good work. And that's it for today. Thanks so much for joining us for this Match Day -1. We'll return next week with league games and Open Cup games to look back on, another game to look forward to. So same time, same place next week. Remember, Austin, Toronto on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. Saturday night, 7:30 start time. Hope to see you there, and we'll see you back here next week.